Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to go over the Nano-Hone stones and we're going to see how well they did over the last 3 weeks of me testing them. So, courtesy of Dom, thanks again Dom for sending these stones by way of Jeff Jewell. Jeff has had these stones before me. I think he had them for about a week or so, and he did some testing and he reached his conclusions and I've reached my conclusions, and I'd say most of it overlapped. We kind of have like the same understanding of the stones. Jeff helped me understand them in the first, probably in the first week. I was having trouble figuring out the 1000 grit stone, if it was like an issue that he had, and you know, we talked about it and I'll go into it in a little bit. But basically, I'm just going to wrap up how these stones performed, who they're good for, who they're not good for, and then you guys can make that judgment call if you want to get Nano-Hone stones or whatever you think would work best for you. So on the table here, I've got most of the stuff that I've sharpened with these stones. There are a couple other knives, like kitchen knives, that I didn't put on here, but these are all the folding knives that I've sharpened and or Jeff Jewell has sharpened, so that we can put like a catalog pretty much together of what these stones can sharpen and what they can't sharpen. So let's go over the 2 steels that Jeff Jewell sharpened that I didn't even bother sharpening because we already have that information from Jeff. Maximet and M390. And Maximet he put to rest right away. We pretty much knew it wasn't going to be sharpenable. M390 is sharpenable, and Jeff seemed to get a decent edge with it. And the only other knife that was not able to be sharpened was the Manix 2 lightweight in S110V. So Maximet and S110V are 2 steels you're not going to put on these stones. Pretty much any of the high vanadium steels you're not going to be able to sharpen with these stones. S30V is an exception. You can get away with it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it is doable. I personally would just use diamond, but you guys can make your own judgment call. So this is the catalog: S30V, M4, CTS XHP, D2, O1 tool steel, which I actually did twice. I did a plain blade and I did a kitchen knife, a Kiritsuke or Kiritsuki that I made. And we've got just like basic carbon steel, like a 1095 type steel. I'm not sure exactly what Gold Dollar uses for this, but it's a high carbon steel. And then VG10, white number 2, and 154 CM were 3 other steels that I sharpened that I didn't film and bring you guys along for. So you'll just have to take my word for it. Actually, maybe I did take you along for VG10 because I believe I have footage when I compared these stones to other stones. I actually think I have footage from sharpening the Dalstrong Petty. I'll bring you in closer. We'll get a better view of the stones, and I'll make my conclusion and my final thoughts on these stones. All right, guys. So these steels, I would say, are a very good test of the capabilities of these stones. First, let's talk about the 400 grit sharpening stone. They feel similar and act similar to like a Shapton stone. In general, I feel that they're a little bit more soft. The 400 grit provides really good audible feedback and good but not great tactile feedback. It can do almost everything that a Shapton Glass 500 can do. I just prefer the Shapton Glass 500 a little bit more. The Nano-Hone stones, I would say the 400 was probably my favorite, but just by a small margin out of the three. I also enjoyed the 6000 a lot as well. But the 400, you basically know when your bevel is set, and you know when your burr is established, and the stone will pretty much tell you that. You have to, listen for it a little bit and feel for it, but it will tell you when your bevel is ready a little bit easier than like your Shapton Glass will, in my experience at least. 1000 grit was kind of my like mysterious stone. Out of all of them, I had the hardest time figuring this stone out. This stone has a little bit of like a soggy feel to it, and it also soaks up water like crazy. There is load up. You can see on the 400 and the 1000 that you do get load up. That's probably my biggest gripe, is that you get a good amount of load up, so you do need to have like a Nagara stone or something nearby to dress it, just so you keep cutting effectively. Last is the 6000 grit stone. The 6000 surprised me a lot. It had a little bit softer feel than the Shapton Pro 5000, but it still kind of felt the same. When I lapped it, it felt a little bit softer and creamier than the Shapton Pro 5000, but still, again, reminiscent. It does load up a little bit more than the Shapton Pro 5000. The way that it actually feels and sharpens is almost identical to the Shapton Pro 5000. The way that it loads up is almost identical to the Kyocera 10000, but the polish that you get off of this is almost as good as the Kyocera 10000. So that's where these stones shine the most. All three of these polish like they're double, not quite double their grit, but damn close. So like the 6000 polishes like an 8 or 10,000 stone. The 1000, the polish that you get from it is like, it's easily as good as the Shapton Pro 2000. And the 400 it's as shiny as a Shapton Pro 1000 or even a Shapton Glass 1000. So they do cut and polish a little bit more fine than what the grit level on the stone says. The other piece of this puzzle is the Nano-Hone lapping plate, and I believe this is the NL6. This is a 2¼ inch by 9¼ inch plate, and it has this, it's called button technology, and each one of these like little pentagon shapes and star shapes has diamond, and I believe the diamond's actually embedded all the way through. I thought that's what I read on their site. But the way that the button technology works is the edges of each shape are what cut the most, and that's what keeps the plate lasting longer. You can see the machining on it is really well done. You have a groove that's milled in the center. It's easy to hold on to, and the other nice thing about the buttons is that it doesn't create friction, so you're always like sliding on the stone. If you're looking for a really good tactile feel, these are the stones for you. And let me just give a caveat. If you're looking for good tactile feedback or tactile feel in harder ceramic stones, because you can get softer soaking stones, you could get really fantastic tactile feedback or tactile feel. But for a harder ceramic, these do give you good tactile feel. And that's where it can be trickier with like the Shapton Glass and Pro stones. They don't talk and they don't give as much feedback to you as these do. As soon as I started using these, I almost felt like they were somewhere between a soaking stone and a splash and go stone. And it didn't have to do with the 1000, needing to be re-wet so many times. It's just the way that they feel. They have a softer feel to them than like your traditional splash and go stone. So that was something that I kind of needed to figure out. But I mean, if you have your angle right on your bevel, the stones are going to tell you. If you have your angle wrong on the bevel, these stones will tell you quick. And one thing you need to be careful of is not to move your bevel edge up too high or build a burr too big on one side. You will dig out the stone if you're not careful. So I mean, these stones definitely will make you a better sharpener if you're not a good sharpener. I feel like coming off of these stones, I am a better sharpener now. And not to say that I'm a good sharpener or anything. There's guys that are 1,000 times better than me, and I can point you to their channels to go to. But I'm a mediocre sharpener, and I feel like I got a lot better with these stones, learning my angle control. And sometimes the really hard stones don't afford you that ability to really feel what you're doing. So you have to kind of sharpen and check. With these stones, I feel like they gave me a much better sense of listening to the stone that I didn't get with the Shapton Glass and Pro. Or I didn't get as easily, at least. These stones definitely make you pay attention and stay more cognizant and mindful of what you're doing. Those are the best terms I can put it in. The 400 for speed, I'd give a 7.5 out of 10. The 1000, I'd give a 6.5, and the 6000, I'd give a 6 out of 10. If diamond is 10, and that's the fastest sharpening, that would be the scale that I'd give these. For tactile feel, I'd probably say the 1000 has the best tactile feel when it's freshly lapped and there's adequate water on it. As soon as it starts to load up a little bit or dry out a little bit, it gets like this weird feel to it. The 400, I'd say, is the most consistent stone out of the three. You just spray some water on it, get going. Even when there's a little bit of load up, maybe like 2 sharpenings in, that's when it starts to lose its tactile feel, and it starts to you start to kind of like muddy the waters a little bit, and you're not as sure where you are with the edge, and it needs to be the stone needs to be treated to remove the steel particles from the pores of the stone. The 6000, I would say, it's probably the worst of the three when it comes to tactile feel, and even the auditory feedback, I'd say, is probably the worst of the three. But the polish of it is exceptional. The load up, I mean, it's the fastest for load up, but the 1000 is not too far off from it. They're very close when it comes to load up. The 6000, though, is a true splash and go. You just spray water on it and get going. If I was strictly sharpening kitchen knives or kitchen cutlery, I would buy all 3 of these stones. If that's all I was doing, was kitchen knives and kitchen cutlery. Because I sharpen pocket knives that has, tougher steels, I still like my Shapton glass. Shaptons are are good stones. Shapton Pros, especially for the money, are good stones. And I think just because that's what I'm so used to, that's what I feel most comfortable with. But, you know, I am tempted to get the Nano-Hone stones just for my kitchen cutlery. I don't think I'd ever buy the 6,000. The 1,000, I'm kind of on the fence. You know, I don't like the load up issue with it. That's the only thing that kind of keeps me away from ever thinking about getting one. But the 400, I could see myself buying one in the future. I do have a lot of lower grit stones. That's the only reason I wouldn't, but I really like this stone a lot. The 6,000, I feel like I have the same thing in the Shapton Pro 5,000, so I don't think I'd ever buy it, especially for 90 bucks, 95 bucks. Who are these stones not for? I think if you're a carpenter, these stones are probably not for you. If you're the type that leaves your stones with, you know, steel and water on them and then just walks away, and you don't really take care of your stones that well, I'd say these definitely are not the stones for you. A lot of carpentry sharpening takes some pressure, like with plane blades. You know, you do need to use a little bit more pressure than you would with like a knife. So for that, I would say I don't think these are the best, just because they are a little bit softer. I think Shapton Glass would shine for carpenters. Shapton Pro are also well known for carpenters too. It seems like those are the best for sharpening tools. I didn't even want to try sharpening chisels or turning tools on these because I had a feeling that it would fuck the stones up, and I didn't want to even think about trying that. If you're a pocket knife guy, I'd say it depends on your collection. If you're like Patty from Patty's Potato Peelers, he has a lot of D2, he has a lot of 440C, he has S30V. These stones would probably work well for him. You know, someone who has a lot of those type steels. But if you're the type who has a lot of, you know, the 110V, 90V, 10V, Maximet, Rex 45, those type steels, these stones are not for you. And, you know, that's where you have to ask yourself, is ceramic right for me? If you have a lot of those really crazy steels, diamond is the way to go, or CBN if you can afford it. If you're looking for a luxury stone that gives you like luxurious feel, these stones are great for that. And that's where I think kitchen cutlery would shine best with these stones, because you're never really, like, you're not gonna find a kitchen knife in Maximet unless it's a custom. No production company makes a Maximet kitchen knife, and it's not realistic anyways, because it can be a bitch to sharpen. I mean, if you have the right stones, it's not hard, but it's not that easy either, I guess. But I mean, if you have, you know, your softer steels that are generally in kitchen knives, these stones are fantastic. If you use a lot of like Hitachi white and blue steels, or Aogami Super, like Vitoku 2, any of the Sandvik steels, your easier tool steels like 01, D2, even M4 was fantastic on these. If you have those type steels, these stones will work phenomenally for you. Alright guys, so hopefully you got something from this, and hopefully you got a good takeaway from the sharpening videos and stuff that I did with these stones. Again, I want to thank Dom for letting me use these. They were a pleasure to use, a pleasure to figure out, and it was a good challenge, and it was fun to figure these stones out without, you know, any knowledge from Dom and very little knowledge from Jeff. He only put a couple sharpening videos out. I don't think I even watched all of them. I think I only watched the Akuto 440C video. Maybe like part of another, I'm not 100% sure, but about a week in I started talking to Jeff about them and kind of getting my thoughts on them. And about 10 to 11 days in, I believe I posted the initial first impressions video, and then Dom started talking, and me and Jeff talked a little bit more about them, and I got their feedback on them. But I kind of had already set my my thoughts on the stones, and I didn't go in with any expectation, and I think that was the best way to go, just because I could see for real what I thought about these stones, and not trying to match my thoughts with Jeff or Dom. If Dom said this works, this works, this works, and this doesn't work, I would go into the testing with a skewed thought process. So I wanted to go into this with a completely open mind to give you guys the best result possible. If you guys like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet. If you're new to the channel, this is the conclusion video of the Nano-Hone stones, and you can go back through and find other videos that I've posted and showing you, sharpening these steels with them, and my thoughts on sharpening with them along the way. So this is the end of the road with the Nano-Hone stones. Again, I want to thank Dom and Jeff, and especially Dom for sending these along. They're going to go back to you within the next couple days. I'll be emailing you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to use these and figure out where I am with sharpening, and if they'd make sense for me, and hopefully if they make sense for you, if they don't make sense for you. So please thank Dom for giving us this opportunity. These are not cheap stones, and he had a lot of faith sending these literally across the country, basically to a stranger, just a YouTube person that he has no idea about my life, and he just trusted that I would take care of these stones and do the right thing and send them back, which that's pretty cool. It takes a lot of trust in someone, and sending a pair of 2 in Rex 45 as well, so that's cool. If you guys have any suggestions for videos down the line, please leave them in the comments or email me at iheartknives@yahoo.com. If there's anything specific you guys want to see with sharpening or knives or whatever, just let me know. We're gonna have some pretty cool content coming up, and you'll be seeing it in my next couple videos, what I'm talking about, but this should be pretty sweet. Alright guys, have yourselves a good rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.